Hey everyone, my guest today is George Fonts, host of World Ablaze with George Fonts, a show that delivers unfiltered, no bullshit conversations and commentary about politics, news, and geopolitics. With a mostly center, often right leaning stance, George delivers analysis and informed opinions that cut through the noise as he presents facts, data, and thought provoking commentary with both guests and solo episodes. George is an avid researcher, and he strives to really understand situations from opposing viewpoints. George has also been fortunate enough to be accepted by many in the intel community and has interviewed some prominent figures in that space. Through his interactions and conversations with Emmy Award-winning journalists, authors, and intelligence professionals, he has been able to walk away with real knowledge and information that often challenges narratives, as he also takes deep dives into subjects to either confirm or dismiss what's being pushed in the media. Welcome to the show, George. I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Would you be able to tell the audience about yourself and what you are working on?
Sure. It's a big question, honestly, with everything I've done. About me. Well, specifically, let's just do this. Let's start with kind of the journey into where I got into podcasting. It'll probably be the most relevant, right? That might be interesting. But I'll just say this. I was basically always kind of a serial entrepreneurial, not preneurial. I was preneurial in spirit. But I was a serial entrepreneur. So, built 6 different businesses, ended up staying within the entertainment industry, and where I provide, production, right? So for events, concerts, etc., could be corporate events, whatever. And so I've stayed in that, been doing that. It's been my longest standing business for 27 years or so. And basically one day COVID happened, right? That whole era, and shut down the whole industry. And so, I was in one of those industries where it was really all artsy people. So with that comes more leftist leaning opinions, which is fine by me. It's not a big deal, but I had to hold my tongue on a lot of things. So in fear of losing a customer, right, a client, or, creating a situation on a job. And so I've always stayed to myself when it came to politics and whatnot. So, but the COVID era taught us one thing, is that everyone seemed that, or they felt they can get behind a mic and say whatever they want, and thought that they were, their voice mattered. And many times it does, free speech, etc. But I heard a lot of people getting it wrong. They were saying a lot of things that were not correct, that contradicted the facts, data, and actual reports. Seems like they were just gleaming headlines and not really getting down to the bottom of what was really happening. And so that, combined with the push in social media of the time, because nobody else had anything to do, right? It was really the only way that you can connect. You're either doing Zoom meetings, Zoom calls, podcasts, or you're just trying to connect in social media. So in hearing all these people, eventually I said, you know what? My brother's been doing it for like 11 years, right? He's been a podcaster for a long time. He's an OG. And I thought, well, I'm hearing all these people, honestly, and I'm not sure where my language is on your show, but basically talking a lot of crap. I'll just say that.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, well, be careful. But, they're all talking all this BS. And I'm like, you know what? If this person could get behind the microphone and say whatever they want and think that they've got it right, or, through their pseudo intellectual delivery with big words and run on sentences and whatnot, I was like, well, then why can't I? Right. And so that's how I started. It motivated me. First, I was, kind of a guest host on my brother's show for a bit.
Okay.
And then I just kind of branched off, and I went more into the political realm. He was always like news stories, some politics, he was kind of in the middle of like current events, news oddities, like stories you wouldn't really hear about. And so, I gravitated more into geopolitics. I was really into geopolitics. And when it came to domestic political issues, like when the fires in California were going on, and Trump and Gavin Newsom were going back and forth about the water and turning on the spigot. And I'm like, hold on, Gavin, stop lying. This whole Delta smell thing goes back to like 2012 or whatever. I know. Yeah. Okay. Like, I know you weren't governor at the time it really went back, but you know what was happening, and stop saying you don't. And so I went through that whole thing. And so I got into going into, delivering deep dive type podcasts on certain like single subject issues. And then I started talking about 3 topics. And then I really started gravitating into geopolitics. Okay. And, and that's where we are now with the show, World Ablaze with George Fonts. And, a lot of people always ask me, well, is the world really ablaze? When you could change the name? And, the reason I came with the name wasn't because I thought the world was literally burning. I thought it was a dual meaning. I thought that it would give me room to work with other people, as in have a person as a guest on the show who I thought was setting the world ablaze through their works, like an
Yeah.
author or an artist or whatever. So there is a dual meaning to it, but unfortunately, most everything we discuss has really been about the world being on fire. So, almost literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit about, how I got to where I'm at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I I just I just got into podcasting, because my I have no complaints about my job. It's a very good job, but it doesn't keep my mind busy, and
Gotcha.
if my mind isn't busy, if I don't have, something to work on in my in my head
Yeah.
while I'm doing other work, um, it just doesn't work for me. I'm miserable, and so I'm like, "Okay, well, what kind of hobby can I do to, um, kinda burn off this extra stuff?" And, I like a lot of other things, but in my head, I mean, I'm always keeping up with politics anyways. So it's like, well, usually if there's something happening, somebody's asking me to summarize a situation. So why don't I just start recording it, you know? So,
Yeah. Good call. Yeah.
yeah. So I do like the news update or the rundowns or whatever of what's happening, and then also have guests and get their opinions on things.
So
But
we're slightly similar there for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds like work's not stimulating enough, right? Where you can't have the conversations you want to have. So,
Yeah.
you know, here you are with the
Yeah.
podcast talking to guys like me. So hopefully this is a good conversation. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that sounds very similar. I kind of feel the same way. I think with me it was more that I really couldn't express an opinion, and most of us with certain
Mhm.
jobs, if you're in government or around certain companies, for example, that are very connected, you can't. I mean, you just can't.
Yeah.
And we've seen during COVID where people were canceled, their livelihoods stripped away, and even after we got through it,
Yeah.
returned to the job, and people were going about 30 years about someone who, got a little too drunk for one night and maybe got in the car when they shouldn't. And all of a sudden their whole life is taken away. And I'm not an advocate for drunk driving, by the way. I'm just
Right.
using it as an example. And it's like, we just seen the cancel culture exacerbate and just really build on itself. And then now, it's kind of died out, but not really, because now we're seeing this weird podcast war thing and people fighting each
Yeah.
other and the MAGA infighting. I'm like, it's just coming full circle. It's just switched from one
Right.
side to the other. And so it's
Right.
like, is it just, is it really like the old saying? Is it, two sides of the same coin? It's starting to seem that way.
It
But
really is.
no, it's politics is a weird thing right now. It's gotten so polarized, and I don't think I've ever seen in my life before. I mean, living through the Clinton era, and you got the Bush
Mhm.
era, Obama, etc. I mean, we've seen some very flamboyant presidents in terms of their personalities, like big
Yeah.
personalities, right? Able to get
Mhm.
behind a mic and move a crowd. But these days, we've never seen anything like Trump since 2016, and that
Right.
totally spun everybody around. Upended everything, and whether you like him or not, I think it was a good and bad. You had a person who
Mhm.
talked straight, didn't care, just said what
Yeah.
was on his mind. The byproduct of that being he's not very presidential, which
Right.
you know, I like some of the things he does, but I wish he was a little bit more of a representative, to be quite honest. And that caused everybody else to go, well, oh, look at what's working. I'm going to try to do the same thing, and it's just spinning out of control. And
Yeah.
now you can't even have a conversation that's not necessarily related to politics anymore. And for
Yeah.
those who want to ignore it, well, unfortunately, you're starting to see the fruits of, well, your actions. And that is, putting your head in the sand does not fix the situation. It doesn't make it go away. It's like hiding under the blanket when the monster's staring at you from the door. Monster's still there. You're gonna have to deal with it at some point. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that we're bombarded by it, but I think most people should start to actually take a side and realize where they stand. And I think that would help America right now determine its future. We'll
Mhm.
know where the majority of the opinion is versus those who are always sitting on the fence trying to play it safe for fear of, XYZ, be
Right.
it job, relationship, friends, etc. But at some point, you're going to have to get there. And the way things are going, if we're looking at what's going on geopolitically
Mhm.
in America, just not, really winning anybody's favor these days, as or so it seems.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to put your, draw a hard line. You're definitely gonna have to stand on your laurels. You got to stand for what you actually believe, and I think that's where we're at right now. Not saying pick up pitchforks and start stabbing each other, but you should be able to
Yeah.
have an opinion, express it, and have a real conversation, and not just sling insults and these pseudo debates that we see online, which are not debates whatsoever. They're just shouting matches, and
Right.
it's about, well, who could dunk on the next guy and who's the funniest. And they go, oh, look, I won the debate because everyone was laughing at you. Well, you also didn't even talk about the subject matter whatsoever. So,
Right.
I like having these type of conversations because we can actually address the actual issues. So
Mhm.
anyway, that's my opinion on
Yeah.
kind of the state of things at the moment. And that could change
It
tomorrow. Who knows?
Right. I know. See, and that is one thing that people don't seem to realize is it's normal to change your mind.
Yeah, it
And,
is.
yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
some of it's kinda fishy when everybody's changing their mind in a specific way, but
At the exact same time, saying the exact same thing on social media.
yeah, yeah, it's almost exact same wording with some of
Right.
them. But, um,
True.
what worries me is the midterms.
Yeah.
I So this week, actually, though, it seems like I don't know, and I definitely want your opinion on this. It seems like, now that Pam Bondi's gone, things are a little more things are happening with the Department of Justice. It seems like they're actually getting moving on some of the issues that people have been concerned about domestically.
Hmm.
But with and so I hope that I hope we start to see some progress with that. But the infighting with the Republican Party, it's like you guys really need to get it together
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we really don't have that much time. I was just talking to my husband about like, okay, so 2027, I'm gonna do caucus. We'll do it last year or last caucus, I did a speech. I plan on doing it again for
Okay.
whichever candidate I choose to support. And that starts pretty early. It starts, a long time before the actual election
Yeah.
when you start getting ready for that and trying to get people to attend. Since ours is the first in the country. But anyway, so you really don't have that much time. And I feel like a lot of time has been wasted so far this first term with bad cabinet picks, Congress just, I don't know, doing fuck all. I
Yeah,
don't know. I
literally.
mean, they have done some good things, but, I guess, yeah, what do you think the midterms are gonna look like?
Interesting question because I've been pondering this, and unfortunately, I haven't paid enough attention with everything that's going on in the Middle East.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean I've necessarily been ignoring it. Well,
Right.
what I've seen is, I think you're right. I think the Republican Party needs to get their shit together. Look,
Yeah.
you've had control of the House, you had the majority, and you've done nothing with it. Instead, you're trying to eat your own and fight each other. Like, we're attacking people like Thomas Massey, whether you like him or not, you
Right.
want to call him a rhino, et cetera. He's still, you know, on your team, and
Right.
it's up to you to come to terms so that you can get the votes to move policy forward, and that's
Mhm.
what they haven't been doing. I mean, they're dropping the ball completely. It seems like they were more together when the Democrat Party had control for the last previous 12 years before, right, 12 or
Yeah.
13 years, whatever it was. And so they seem to be very unified then, but now
Mhm.
I don't know if the party is unified because I don't think it's a single party anymore. I really think it's a Republican Party and a MAGA party. That's my
Yeah.
opinion. I think that MAGA needs to be its own party. And sure, that might be splitting the conservative vote, but we could also ask the question, are they all really true conservatives anymore? It
Right.
seems like it's more of a fight of conservative, liberal, and independent is what it really is. And so we can call that independent party. Maybe it's MAGA. I don't know. Maybe we
Mhm.
give it a different name. But it really seems like America right now is shifting and focusing more on the independent nature of their status in terms of what they want to be identified as. Because,
Yeah.
if we're going to be honest, there might be some stuff from the Democrat Party that makes sense, maybe not a lot, depending on who you are,
Right.
but some stuff, right? We can't ignore
Yeah.
everything. And then on the right, there's some stuff that makes sense, and there's some stuff where you're like, what the fuck are you guys doing, right? So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are moving to the center right now. And to me, the split is, I can't tell if the split is necessarily in the Republican Party or if it's just America going like, both of you guys suck and we
Yeah.
don't want to support either of you. Now, as far as midterms for the Republican Party, we can say they're dropping the ball, but yet we're also seeing the weaponization of gerrymandering, which I understand is exactly completely illegal. Every 10 years, you got to do it. I get it.
Mhm.
But the way it's been going about it, if you're looking at like Chicago or Illinois, for example,
Yeah.
how that map looks, where you have this weird sliver here and then it just kind of angles, and it's like none of it makes sense, right? Virginia
Right.
just got away with it. All right. So we lost some seats there as far as Republican Party. And everybody's going to
Mhm.
go, well, look what Trump did in Texas. Well, you guys are a bunch of idiots because that had nothing to do with Trump. That was a Supreme Court ruling under the Biden administration. And a lot of people didn't even realize what that gerrymandering was about. It was because what happened, and I'll find the notes and send it to you, but what happened, this was an
Mm.
actual court case where there were minorities that got together, right? So
Mhm.
let's say, let's say it was like I think it was Asian community, the black community, and I forgot which other one. But what happened is they worked together to
Uh-huh.
try to represent themselves as one singular minority to break apart, which was seen to be mostly white districts, right? And
Okay.
they use that as a tool to break the districts up. Now, the courts ruled, or the Supreme Court ruled that that was not constitutional. Like you can't do that. You can't combine minorities to say you are one representative minority when you're representing multiple people. In this
Yeah.
movement, for example, like you have African American, you have people from India, you have Asians, you have like you have people from Mexico. You can't say all these different factions or different groups are now one group and they're combining their forces to try to break apart districts in order
Mhm.
to gain favor or push it in their favor rather. And so that's what actually happened in Texas. So there was an order that they had to redistrict based on the Supreme Court ruling. It had zero to do with Trump. A lot of people attribute it to Trump because he said, well, we need to make the state more red and we need to do this. Yeah, he runs his mouth, but he had nothing to do with that gerrymandering that happened in Texas. That was already a court order from Biden's administration, under his
Right.
administration anyway. So anyway, we've seen this happen recently, and Virginia was a weaponized version of it. Let's just be honest, the way they're going about it.
Yeah.
You have Illinois has always been bad, and then California recently. I'm in California, so I can speak to this. Okay, so we have like let's say 6 million registered Republicans. Only 3
Uh-huh.
million came out to fucking vote on Prop 50, and
Yeah.
so the problem I'm seeing in some of these blue states, it seems like maybe Republicans or conservatives don't feel their vote matters because historically in these blue states, they really don't.
Mhm.
But we're giving it away. So I guess in a long about way of answering your question, is the Republican Party or conservatives? Let's just not say the Republican Party. Let's just say this. Are conservatives, for example, let's
Mhm.
say you and I, if we're conservatives, I don't know if you completely are, but you seem to lean that way. If
Yes.
we're conservatives, and we don't vote for the things we're complaining about, you're in essence literally giving it to the other side. So therefore, you can't complain if you took no action. And this
Mhm.
lesson that should have been learned in California with Prop 50 is if all the conservatives actually voted, this never would have happened because not
Right.
enough people from the left or the Democrat Party actually showed up to overturn. They wouldn't be able to overturn the votes if all registered conservatives, Republicans actually got a vote. It didn't
Right.
make sense. Like, what were you too busy doing that you couldn't protect your district? And so
Yeah.
here we are now with the majority blue state in terms of the districting and representation. Now, I know it's being challenged right now, but you're correct in, yeah, we're not doing anything. There's too much infighting. There's too much
Mhm.
inaction. We're basically shooting ourselves in the foot here. And
Yeah.
I think we always need a balanced government. So I'm not saying it's okay to be majority red or majority blue, but if we don't have enough representation on either side, then I think the country just goes to shit, just like what we saw under, the Obama era. All right.
Mhm.
He was a great representative in terms of how he spoke, but there were some policies that absolutely made no damn sense whatsoever.
Right.
Whatsoever. For example, preferential treatment to immigrants, like a certain immigrant, like from Somalia, right? He let
Mhm.
that happen. He was the person who started opening up the borders.
Yeah.
His appeasement to Iran and how he treated them and giving them 17.5 billion, and then as that went under into the Biden administration, right? Then there was another 60 billion. So between the two, overall, I think there was about 160 billion or whatever that they actually released assets of and gave money to Iran. Okay, that was you
Yeah.
guys. That was on you. We could also talk about Russia and
Right.
Ukraine. Neither of them did anything to stop. In fact, Obama kind of just like was like, "Hey, whatever." And then, if you look at what Biden did, he did actually nothing at all. So,
Right.
you know, I can't blame everything on them. We could blame
Mhm.
a lot on them. There's some things Trump did that is questionable, but what I can say is good about Trump is his foreign policy, the way he's been handling it has been good.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with him taking Maduro or what's going on in the Middle East right now, etc., he is
Yeah.
taking action where everybody else didn't act. And we can go all the way back to Carter when it comes to Iran, for example. So,
Right.
conservatives dropping the ball. Midterms are coming. We're not doing anything about it. The infighting, ridiculous. The podcast wars, I just don't understand it. To me, it's like a bunch of political
Yeah.
soap operas. Like, what are you guys doing? Nothing they're talking about is relevant or matters. It really
Right.
doesn't.
Right. I
Sorry, I
I
know it's long
yeah.
winded. It's
Yeah,
just,
no, I mean, I feel like so many of the podcasts, and maybe it's because I don't even know why I say maybe.
just say
It's
it.
a lot of it's because of the clicks.
Just say it.
It's they talk about, like, the obsession with Erica Kirk.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, that's easy for you to get clicks if you're gonna talk about anything dramatic like that, and I just so do you not there's so much other stuff to talk about, but
Yeah.
it just seems like they're taking the easy way out to talk about that or bash on Israel or
I think
whatever.
I
I
think I think sounds because it's easy, right?
yeah.
I mean, the average person, including myself, I'm not saying I'm above average, but the average person, you and I, for example, how busy are we in our lives right now?
Super busy.
Right?
Yeah.
And so how often do you have time to do any real deep dive on anything? Like I do. I make a point to do it. Like that's what my
Mhm.
show is about. But not everybody does. You know,
Right.
you're taking kids to soccer practice, karate, whatever. You have school, or have kids or not. Maybe you have different different communities you're a part of. You're remodeling your house. You're doing all
Yeah.
these things. You have a job that's demanding, and you're just seeing. Oh, Fox News said U.S. bombed Iran. Well, that
Yeah.
sucks. We shouldn't be in any war. Why are we there? All right. Or, Trump said, screw the UK and F you, Keir Starmer. Okay.
Yeah.
And they just read the headline and they take it for face value and move on. And I think people are wanting to trust those who are putting themselves out there. Okay. And I'm going to
Mhm.
put you in the category, for example, because you go over the news, you go over your weekly, hey,
Yeah.
this would happen for the week, and I'm going to present it. So they
Yeah.
want to trust people like you. They want to trust people like me, for example, and they want to believe that we're doing our due diligence and telling the truth.
Right.
And unfortunately, these podcasters that we're talking about, and
Right.
I'll let you name them because it's your show, but the podcasters that in question, for example, they're not doing that. I think they're more concerned about remaining relevant in terms of their popularity. You see
Right.
how they've changed positions multiple times, actually, in
Yeah.
Biden's administration as well as in Trump's administration. And so, where's the consistency? It's very easy to tell that these people are literally grifters. That's
Right.
just what it is. They're more concerned with staying ahead of the game in terms of collecting the check because likes and clicks feed their pockets. And if they're not doing that, then I don't think they want to fall behind, is what it is. But in
Mhm.
doing so, they're ignoring what their actual duty is. And I'm going to say it's their duty because they presented themselves this way. They present
Right.
themselves as truth tellers. They present themselves as people who want to get down to the bottom of things, who are independent journalists,
Yeah.
people who claim to be investigators, and yet they're not doing that. And like you said, they're taking the easy road. They don't
Mhm.
want the pushback. They don't want the challenge. They just want to stay relevant and in the top of the food chain in terms of podcasting is concerned. They want to be in that top 100, top 200, and that's all they're concerned with. So
Right.
I've always said the truth isn't popular. And unfortunately, hey, if that means it's a long road for me or you, then, maybe so be it. But I'd rather be judged on my quality of work and, what I leave behind and what I say rather than someone who's called a liar years later going, wait a minute, that guy was kind of a
Right.
little off. We just never realized it. Right.
Right.
We've
Yeah.
been, yeah. So that's my opinion on that
Yep.
situation.
Yeah.
Definitely. And the
Yeah.
infighting's stupid.
It it really is, and I mean, it doesn't look good either. I
Right.
don't know, just it's almost becoming reality TV, all of like the pumped up drama, the immaturity of it all. It's just,
You're
uh,
spot on.
I don't know. Yeah.
It is. It's a
So,
soap opera,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's what it's turning into. That I mean, there's a lot of people that I used to listen to that I
Anyone
don't
specifically?
anymore.
Can you name them?
Candace and Tucker, those are the
Okay.
2 that I used to listen to, and it's just like, "All right, what is
Yeah,
going on here?"
it's sad because I used to like Candace in terms of,
Mhm.
when she first came out. I don't know her complete history, but there was a time where it seemed she was really taking the road of, "I'm gonna expose this because the people need to know," right?
Yeah.
That was kind of her thing.
Yeah.
And now it's like, "I know the truth, but I'm only gonna tell you next week. And
Right.
and and I'm looking out for you, and,
Mhm.
oh my god, there's this crazy plot that I have all the details on, but next week you gotta wait because I'm going on vacation." I'm like, "Hold on, if you really knew, actually knew, let's just be logical about this. If you really knew and cared, would you not involve the authorities? Would this not be done already? Like, why would you use
Right.
this as a way to hook your audience?" Reason is, like you said, it's a giant soap opera. I've told many people,
Yeah.
I like, she's literally right now, her whole show is an interactive Nancy Drew novel. That's all it is,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
that's what it's turned into, unfortunately. As far as Tucker,
Yeah.
the guy's smart. I don't know where he's going. I'm not sure what's happening there. Um,
Yeah.
but that's another case of, people trusted him, right?
Yeah.
And you got to question the motives, and people will believe him just like they will believe a Dave Smith, for example.
Right.
And I'm not going to. But anyway, as far as Dave Smith's concerned, it's like, I'll just say he's half right half the time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very surface level information and understanding there. I think his domestic stuff is cool. He gets a lot of that right, but his geopolitics is way off. And
Mhm.
but the danger in that, my point being is, the danger in all of that is, don't present yourself as a subject matter expert if you're not. It's okay to say,
Right.
"I'm not sure," and then have the guest who is a subject matter expert on your show. I think that's more credible. I mean, to me, that's the right thing to do, and
Yeah.
presenting facts and data to your fan base or your audience. And then it's okay to say, "This is my opinion." Don't present it as a fact. But these people aren't really doing that, you
Yeah.
know. And there's the danger.
Yes.
So yeah, I think you're spot on. It's a soap opera.
Yeah.
It really is
It's
what it turned into.
so yeah, it's funny you mentioned Dave Smith because for him, isn't he a comedian also or no?
That's debatable.
Okay. And then
No, he is. I'm sorry. I'm just being an ass. No, that's how he started. He's a comedian.
okay.
Um, he knows Joe Rogan. They're friends. They're all part
That's
of
what
that
I thought.
crew. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he was a correspondent on Fox for a while too. So on
Huh.
Fox News, he
Okay.
would give his political opinions on domestic policies or whatever. But
Yeah.
the reality, the real push he ever got was being on Joe Rogan's show. And
Okay.
after that happened, that's kind of how he just got bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, he's a comedian. He's part of that crew.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking he said something once that rubbed me the wrong way. In
what was
like
that?
you said, I can't remember what it was, but let's say Tim Dillon, he's another
Hmm.
one that I'll listen to, but then he'll have something wrong and he'll go into it for like 20 minutes ranting, and it might be funny, but it's like, okay, but you don't have it right. Like you didn't understand the situation. There's something incorrect
Right.
about this. And now your audience is believing your misunderstanding of a situation or a policy or how something happened. And
Yeah, I think there's been a danger with the movement of comedians as political analysts and commentators. Okay.
mhm,
It's okay to be an average person who has an opinion because, you know, most all of us, like I said, me, average person, we're just trying to live, man. We're trying to pay the
yeah,
bills. We're just doing the thing and waking up and hoping we get through the day half the time with everything going on. And so we're gonna have an opinion. And I think that's what's
yeah,
cool about these guys in the beginning. It was like, "Oh, there's this guy, I think he's funny." He's not a political guy, but he's kind of saying what makes sense because I feel the same way.
right.
But they've transitioned from that to being, again, SMEs, subject matter experts, political analysts,
Mhm,
or historians if you're, talking about other people. But the
yeah,
reality is it's misleading for sure. And Tim Dillon, I mean, I have nothing to say. I don't really listen to him. I think he's just a living, real life Cartman. That's the way I see him. And,
That's hilarious.
he is, and I'm not trying to insult him, but that's just how he comes across to me.
Yeah.
I've tried to listen to a few of his episodes. Literally, I just can't. I just can't because, as you said, the guy's so far off. You
Yeah.
know, and I think maybe his political commentary and analysis in and of itself might be the joke. I mean, maybe that's what it is. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I think he's
Yeah.
off. It's the same thing with Theo Vaughn. I mean, the only reason anybody thinks he's cool is because he gets high all the time and asks people questions, and had access to the president. Okay, cool. But outside of that, are you right? No, he's
Right.
not. He has some valid opinions, but he's not right. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think people give these people too much. They lend them too much credence to them being against subject matter experts. They're not.
Mhm.
They're not. They're funny.
Right.
I'm not. They're funny, but at the same time, just let everybody know. Remember, I'm a comedian. Yes, this is my opinion. You have to say these things. You have to let them know
Right.
based on everything I've read, and this is how I understand it. But they don't do that. You
Right.
know. And
Right.
so, unfortunately, they have big audiences. And back to circling back to what we discussed earlier, people
Mhm.
want to trust those who are going out there, getting on a microphone, and they want to believe that what they're saying is the truth, or that what they're saying actually represents them. When
Yeah.
these people themselves are so far removed financially from me, for
Right.
example,
Right.
like, do they really connect? No.
Yeah.
And so you gotta ask yourself, is this all, like, intentional? Is it curated? The
Yeah.
narratives, the messaging, everything? Look, kudos to them for making it. I'm not
Right.
bashing them for that,
Of
but
course.
I
Yeah.
think I think where we're getting at, if you and I would had to put the word to it, where we're getting at is there needs to be accountability. There really does.
Right. Yeah.
Say you fucked up. It's cool. Say it's an opinion. Say you really don't understand, but I'm gonna have the person who does understand on the show. I think they
Yeah.
start doing that. I think I can come back around to them, to be honest.
Right. Do you listen to Tim Pool at all?
No.
No?
No. I don't have a hate for the guy. I don't. I just don't listen. And if I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't listen to a lot of mainstream podcasters anymore. I
Yeah.
stopped that, and it's not because I'm opposed to them. Like, I'm not fighting the system. It's just I'm focused on my show's pretty busy.
Yeah.
And then I'm making an effort to support more independent podcasters, and I listen to more of
Yeah.
those. And the reason I do that is because I find that they go out of their way to do the work more than
Mhm.
these mainstreamers do, to be quite
Right.
honest.
Right.
And it's crazy because these guys have large teams. And,
Yeah.
people like me don't. People like you don't. There's other podcasters I listen to that are independent that they don't have large teams. I know them, but
Yeah.
yet they're going out of their way to do the work because they want to make sure that they're presenting the truth based on facts and data at the time, me included,
Uh-huh.
at the time of the recording, like whatever's available at the time.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't listen to too many mainstreamers anymore. The only one I listen to
Yeah.
mainstream, all right, I'm gonna be honest, I listen to one for more entertainment, but I do listen to trigonometry. I like
Okay.
trigonometry a lot just because I think they kind of do what you do and I do. They're just
Uh-huh.
having conversations. They have their opinion, but they're hearing people out whether they agree with them or not. And then
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I do listen to Piers Morgan, and the reason is it's fun. I could put it on in the
Yeah.
background and tune it out, and and he's actually good at what he does. He knows what he's doing.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But it's just I know it's a yelling matches and all of that. And you have Anna Kasparian over here and
That's
Shank
funny.
User, but it's just funny. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
entertainment.
Right.
So yeah, I prefer to support the independents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
S um, and that's something that I've thought about. I'm like, "Okay, so if I had somebody help me with writing my material or taking notes, to
Mhm.
me, that means I'm not engaging with the material and
Right.
I'm no longer in the know about what's going on. I'm just a talking head, and that's not what
Yes.
I wanna be.
Just
So
walking into it.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I I think that what's hard for us is, not my full-time job,
Mhm.
right? I'm sure it's
Right.
not your full-time job. And so making the time with everything that's going on to do what we do. But you know what I do is I have been using more AI tools to help me out.
Mhm.
And not to write things for me. Like, I don't script a damn thing. I do not
Uh-huh.
script. That's one thing I don't do. When I have guests, I don't write down questions. I just have the conversation and let it develop.
Yeah.
I have an idea of what I'm gonna ask somebody, based on their background, right? What are they
Right.
subject matters in? And I can stick to that vein, for example.
Yeah.
But I'm also gonna throw in things that are happening in real time or current events that they may have an opinion on from their
Yeah.
perspective that I wanna know. Um,
Mhm.
and so I don't script anything. But what I do use the AI for is for casting a wide net to grab information, okay? Like,
Okay.
the shooting, right? What happened at the White House,
Yeah.
the correspondence dinner. I didn't know anything about it. I was busy, literally.
Okay.
I've been busy for a week. I'm like so out of the loop. And I was
Yeah.
just on another show yesterday, honestly, as a guest, and he asked
Uh,
me the question. I was like, I'll be upfront with you. Like, I'm a little behind on this, but
yeah.
let's talk about it. And so what I'll do is I'll use like let's just say like Notebook LM or something, right?
Okay.
Something of that nature to be like, okay, here's what happened, or just type the topic of discussion, right? In this
Right.
case, White House shooting
Right.
2026 correspondence center, and just let
Right.
it go ahead and grab about 50 sources, and then from there I'll drill down, summarize, grab another 50, grab another 50, and then eventually through all the summarization and everything, I'll start drilling it down, and then I can start to see, okay, where the stories corroborate, right? If they
Mhm.
corroborate enough, I know that, okay, maybe we're onto something, maybe there's a factual story. And then you got to dive deeper from that into the details. Then we start talking
Yeah.
about the weapons, et cetera. It's like, and so through this process, it's a lengthy process. Like, I don't just turn on, the camera and the mic and just go. And so I do this because, one, I personally want to have an understanding before I
Mhm.
talk shit. Let's be honest. I have
Yeah.
opinions,
Yeah.
okay, but I want those to be informed opinions. It doesn't mean you have to
Yeah.
agree with me, but at least I can say that my opinion is based on enough facts and data, and I can back it up.
Mhm.
At the same time, I also want to have enough understanding so that if I don't want to inflect my opinion, but I think it's important for people to talk about, then I have a good
Uh-huh.
understanding again to be able to talk about that subject, that event, whatever happened, and then hopefully my audience can walk away going, "Wow, that's crazy. Okay," and let them decide. You know,
Right.
so that's why I do what I do. So I think what would help people like us is leveraging these tools that are out there, not to do the work
Yeah.
for you, but to help you do the work. Always be yourself. Always use your brain.
Right.
Always use your brain. Don't people are going to see through the fakeness. They really do. They'll see
Yeah.
through it eventually. Or
Yeah.
you're going to get in a discussion with someone, they're going to realize, well, this person doesn't know shit, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say maybe using more AI tools that would help. Like for example, you, me. For I just started doing it, by the way, so I'm like, that's awesome. So I just
Yeah.
started using it, and it does help. And I think a lot of independents, if they're struggling because of
Yeah.
time, which we really don't have, try to use these tools that are freely available to help you
Right.
out. And like I say, go beyond the damn headline. Don't just live on the surface of information. Definitely.
Yeah. So I've noticed, I guess for me with AI, I have to be really careful, but yeah, you do have to prompt like several times to make sure that you're getting the um everything correct.
Yeah.
Usually I usually use Grok, but sometimes I'll take a bunch of different notes and put it in and just be like, "Can you please summarize this event based off of what's in the news and based off of my notes?" And it makes
Mhm.
it more personable because um I think I tend to maybe give information that's not needed or it's repetitive or just sound like a dictionary or something,
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, can you just summarize this? And at least I'm then doing my own work, looking into it, and it's just
Yeah,
helping
I
me skip one
I don't think
step.
there's anything wrong with using the tool. I mean, I use it as I started using more Notebook LM. I use both Grok and I use Notebook LM, and I'll use
Mhm.
Gemini. I think it's good to use more than one because you're going to get different results. You got to
Yeah.
realize that they're aggregators. That's all they are. They're going to give you exactly like you said, prompt what you're asking for. And I,
Mhm.
and I think the key is learning how to ask the questions. You got to be concise. You got
Right.
to be detailed. You got to be able to guide it, so to speak. Like, I want to know the birth rate data of the UK, and then after you give me the birth rate data of the UK, can you break it down by let's say, why am I having a brain right now? Break it down by, let's say, culture, right? Like
Mhm.
whether they're let's say African, from actually Africa or Moroccan or whatever, because there's multiple cultures live in the UK. So let's break it down by that.
Right.
And then after you do that, I want to know, you know, what has been the birth rate over the last 5 years in each one of those cultures, for example. And then you just keep drilling it down and drilling it down until you can start to see patterns emerge. That's the
Mhm.
only way to do it. If you're too broad, then your information and understanding is not going to be as concise or as detailed as it could be. So you got to really
Yeah.
just start being very specific and just keep going down that rabbit hole. And hopefully not go so deep that you just spent 5 hours doing it. But
Right.
you know, yeah, you
Yeah.
do have to know how to prompt, like you said, to get what you want out of it. So, but
Yeah.
they're great tools, and again,
Oh,
just
yeah.
use them as tools only, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually used Grok a lot, because it'll keep track of your conversation, and so
Mhm.
if I go back and I have fish tanks, and if I go back and I have a question about my 60-gallon, it knows every species in my tank, it knows all the
That's
substrates, and
crazy.
then, it's like, "Oh, I'm having a die-off of this species," and it's like, "Oh, they need harder water," stuff like that, and it's like, "Wow, this is saving me so much research right now," because
That's
it's
really cool. Yeah, look at a Notebook LM. You like that? You might like that too.
okay.
The only thing is you do need a Google account. I don't know if you do, like Google
Yep.
email, whatever, but
Mhm.
that will do similar stuff. And
Okay.
so it'll create a notebook, and within that notebook, you could add sources, and then you can summarize those sources, and you can select which ones you want
Oh,
summarized, or you can summarize it all. Take that summary, save it as a source, and then just keep going. So you could save all your summaries as sources, and then you can
yeah.
create reports, you can create presentations, blogs, everything out of those. So
Okay.
pretty cool tool. I just started using
Yeah.
that. And again, it's a tool, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
it just helps someone like me. I know it'll help someone like you who we're podcasters, we're independent, we don't have teams, but it's
Mhm.
gonna help us get all the info and help us, focus and get a better understanding of the situation before we just start opening our mouths on the microphone.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah. Alright, so I've been wondering what your opinion is on, Operation Epic Fury.
Epic Fury.
Yeah. Hard
Well,
turn.
I want to talk about Iran.
Yeah, for me personally, I am excited that there could be a better beginning for the Iranian people,
Okay.
um, and I guess I know we're suffering economically for it, so I just hope that the outcome is good for them as well as it is for us. So I personally am not opposed to what's going on. It's just taking
Well,
longer than I expected.
how much? So let's start here. I definitely have opinions based on information I actually know, right?
Mhm.
But how? Let's backtrack. So my opinion is because it's kind of it's a broad question.
Yeah.
So do you have any specifics or anything that has happened recently or anything about it that kind of concerns you more or less? Like maybe we can start there and I can try to give you my opinion or an assessment on that because epic fury in and of itself
Yeah.
is it's really broad. I mean, there's a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess yeah, so I this is one topic that I'm not caught up on within the past 48 hours. So
okay,
whatever's happened in the past 2 days, I'm not sure what's happening. I feel like I heard about another ceasefire, but
yeah, there's so let's just do this. Epic fury in and of itself. Let's start with the Strait of Hormuz because
okay.
that's been the area of contention around the world, right?
Okay.
Everyone has opinion about it,
Mhm.
and you see all the AI slop online through social media
Mhm.
where you have the Iranian Lego movies and everything happening, and people are buying in to the fact. It's not a fact, actually. I don't know why I said that. They're buying in to the narrative that the U.S. is fighting a losing war. The U.S. can't win
Yeah.
against Iran. Iran is too resilient, etc. I think the distinction here that people need to realize is it's not a fight against Iran. It's a fight against the Islamic regime or the Iranian regime. It's a fight
Mhm.
against the IRGC. All right, and most people don't even know what that means. So, uh, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, that is the strong arm of the Islamic regime, all right? The
Mhm.
Islamic regime is who has absolute power in Iran, which is crazy because you're like, well, don't they have a president? Sure, they do.
Right.
But then you
Mm.
have the guys above, the clerics of the Islamic regime, who really are the ones pulling the strings. So they're the ones who are going to go, okay, great idea, but nah, we're not doing that. So the IRGC was the armed militant units, for example,
Mhm.
or arm that would enforce the policies and uphold everything about the Islamic regime in terms of their viewpoints, etc. And and they were there to protect them.
Okay.
So this whole thing came about. A lot of people are trying to make the argument, Dave Smith, of course, are trying to make the argument that we're not going to die for Israel and Israel controls America and we're only there because Netanyahu. Well, I think Trump proved that that's not the case when the 12-day war happened and he yelled at Netanyahu and even said, "You
Yeah.
don't know what the fuck you're doing." That's a
Yeah.
quote. Trump is not being pushed around by Israel. I think Trump has since the 80s, before he was president or even had presidential aspirations, has always wanted to handle Iran.
Mhm.
This whole thing with Iran, we've dropped the ball since Carter. So since the Islamic regime took power in 78, we're looking at about 47, almost 48 years of authoritarian theocratic rule. And
Yeah.
so what should have happened years ago, we should have shut them down. Okay. This Strait of Hormuz thing going on where they shut down the strait, this isn't the first time they did it. They did it in the 80s under the Reagan era. So we
Okay.
know that they can do this and they would have done it before. America itself, we're not necessarily affected by it, not directly. Okay.
Mhm.
We are in a roundabout way. And the reason is because people are crying about the cost of oil. People
Yeah.
are saying it's too expensive. What are you doing? You're raising the prices around the world for everybody. Well, for America in an indirect way we are, because if we're looking
Yeah.
at exports, China buys 90% of Iran's oil. China. It's their biggest customer. They get a deal
Mhm.
on it. Okay. So by us squeezing Iran, and in fact, this goes back to Venezuela actually, but let's stick to Iran for now. By squeezing
Okay.
Iran, the Islamic regime, the whole point of the Strait of Hormuz, the blockade, and it wasn't a blockade of all traffic. It was a blockade of the Persian ports, or not Persian, sorry. Well, it is Persia, Iranian ports.
Mhm.
That's what the blockade was. A lot of people got it wrong. Like, oh, look, boats are getting through. Well, yeah, they are getting through. We
Right.
never shut down people's ability to buy from Saudi Arabia, for example, or any
Right.
of the other Gulf nations in the Persian Gulf. We did not do that. We are trying to control and penalize Iran, specifically the Islamic regime. Why? Well, 45% or more of their budget that they need to run their Islamic regime government comes
Mm.
from their oil sales. Okay. Karg Island actually literally stores about 80 to 90% of all the oil they produce on the mainland. That
Right.
was the importance of Karg Island. So this whole thing that we're doing right now is not about who has control of the strait. It's about us squeezing the Iranian or Islamic regime financially. You take away their
Right.
money, they can't operate. As of now, their military is limping along. A lot of people are saying, oh, they have all the Shahed drones and they have, well, the ability to continue to produce those has been fairly impaired. I would say decimated, but it's been very, very much impaired. Through the bombing of what we did and what Israel did, we took out a lot of their facilities that were there to help continue to manufacture weapons, for example, took out a
Mhm.
lot of infrastructure on the mainland. We've also took out just about all their leadership. So by controlling the strait, we cut the money off. If we cut the money off, they can't buy. We know what else they can't do? You know what else has been quiet that we haven't heard from? Yeah, have you heard from Hamas lately?
Oh,
No.
right. Right.
Why? Because they're not being funded by the Islamic regime. Okay.
Okay.
Have we heard from the Houthis much? Not really.
Right.
Well, there was a little bit going on, but it's been a little quiet. We know that Israel wants to go after them, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, all of the strife that has ever happened, the terrorist attacks that have ever happened, have kind of been quiet lately with this conflict, and a lot of people
Mhm.
haven't really pointed that out. Well, who's the number one state sponsor of terror? Iran,
Iran.
the Islamic
Yeah.
regime. Well, they got no fucking money. Think about it. So
Right.
if we're squeezing the money, they can't operate. They also have no leadership. Okay,
Mm.
Khamenei was killed. His son, Mossadegh Khamenei, He came into power. Where has he been? He's not present, right? We
Right.
haven't seen him. So we
Right.
have these messages being read, but where is the leader? And they can make whatever excuse they want about him not being mobile, et cetera. Well, we have this thing called Zoom. We're on Riverside right now, right? There's many
Mhm.
things that you can use for remote conversations and presentations. There's much speculation that he's dead. Just
Right.
not that long ago, there was a mural that was on one of the walls over there in Iran, which depicted those who have served the Islamic
Uh-huh.
regime, the leaders, and who have died. And Moshtaba Khamenei or Khamenei was up there. The son was up there. So they're speculating maybe he
Oh.
really is dead. Now, I haven't done enough to confirm that's true, but the videos have circulated. It's up there. He's right there next to his dad. And so maybe there isn't an actual leader of the Islamic regime right now. So
Yeah.
what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz is the ceasefire. Let's talk about the first one. That 2 weeks, right? We're supposed to have the 14-day ceasefire. What happened while this whole thing was being set up? Okay. The US went in and swept up the mines.
Mhm.
They opened up traffic. They allowed the boats or tankers that they were able to get through that were doing legitimate business to get their supplies.
Yeah.
But the other side, you know, still there was still a blockade going. And the multiple ceasefire agreements or talks, it's all theater. I'm going to tell you right now, the Islamic regime is never ever going to sign an agreement. They do not care about what we think. Okay?
Right.
They just don't. They're never going to come to heel until they are forced to. And even then, you're going to see them perform the most glorious death rattle in which they kind of gave us a preview of when they were first
Mm.
bombed. Remember,
Right.
they attacked all their Gulf state neighbors. Okay.
Yeah.
They weren't even involved. Why did they
Right.
do this? Because they feel that, well, if you're not going to help us and we're not aligned, then you're against me. And what's crazy is these are also other Muslim nations. Now, of course, we have Sunni versus Shia Muslims, and I know they're different. They see things differently, but at the basic level,
Mhm.
okay, if we have Catholics and Christians, we can all say we still read from the Bible and believe in Jesus.
Right.
So, that being said, if you have all these Muslim neighbors, regardless of their minor differences or whatever, the basic thread that binds you all together is the Quran and the teachings of Muhammad. What
Uh-huh.
happened there? Why are you attacking your brothers?
Right.
Made no sense. That right there tells you that the Islamic regime themselves don't even care about Islam. They've been using it as a tool to keep people under subjugation. All right. They've been using
Yeah.
it as a tool of conquest and conquering. And that's exactly what they're doing. And I've talked to many people from Iran. I've talked to journalists. I've talked to people in the resistance, you name it. And
Yeah.
I've got enough of them all to say the same thing. They all believe they're not practicing true Islam, for example.
Okay.
And I might have to agree with that. Some will say,
Yeah.
yes, they are. This is what Islam is. But regardless, we're getting back to the Strait is all about squeezing them financially. Okay.
Mhm.
If we cut if we cut China off from doing business with them, they're not getting that oil money from them. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what the Strait of Hormuz is all about. This whole operation is about bleeding them dry financially. They got no money, they can't operate. They have to buy everything. They have no water. Think about it. They have
Right.
salination plants because there's not enough water in the desert. Where they get it? Their energy grids they're not consistent. They have to
Right.
actually buy and import energy. So if we cut off the money, they can't operate. Now, the thing about this, which you alluded to in the beginning, is we all wanted to see Iran liberated, right?
Mhm.
We did want that. Trump said it. Unfortunately, I'm not
Yeah.
sure we're seeing that. A lot of people
Right.
speculate that the people who would have stood up against the Islamic regime, let's say the first, unconfirmed, but let's say 30 to 50,000 people, they say that were killed.
Mhm.
It's speculated that those resistance people, the people that stood up, were the ones that would have resisted. But we also have to look at that as much as Iran right now seems fractured,
Mhm.
there is still very much there's still very much a control issue in terms of
Mhm.
the people, what they can get, what they can use, what tools, access to internet for one, they don't have.
Right.
Um, weapons, good luck, still hard to get in and out. So they're not really equipped to stand against the
Right.
IRGC, for example. But the hope we have at this very moment is we're seeing in real time, and I've called this out months ago. People are just barely coming onto it. There's a power struggle.
Mhm.
okay, between the Islamic regime and the IRGC. And also, let's not forget the Iranian army.
Right.
What's going on with
Yeah.
that? So there has been a power struggle. We don't know who the true de facto leader is of the Islamic regime. The IRGC themselves have been making decisions and doing things that don't always align with the Islamic regime. And if we're talking about the
Mhm.
peace talks, right, the ceasefire talks, we don't even know who the real representative is of Iran,
Right.
right?
Right.
So basically, you know, it's like you have these podcast warriors and, social media influencers who think they know what they're talking about, or like, well, this is a giant loss for the US and, Trump's going to run with his tail tucked between his legs and what. No, you guys are idiots. Like, the only reason we're going to look like to the world there was a loss here is if Congress does not approve further military action. I'm telling
Right.
you right now, my nephew's deployed there. I'm going to say that I know some things, but it's not solely from him, but I do know some things.
Yeah.
I know intel experts, like legitimate ones that are still working in the intel community.
Yeah.
Everything you guys are seeing is bullshit. Iran is limping. They're barely
Yeah.
surviving. Okay. My problem with the situation that I don't agree with is drawing this out because the people stuck in the middle are the Iranian people, the civilians.
Right.
And how are we gonna help them? Well, the problem is most of them want help, but then the hardcore people are like, no, we don't want Western influence or we don't want their involvement because we need to do it. Well, we bombed the shit out of the Islamic regime. We took out the
Mhm.
leadership, but you're still not in a position to rise up. And that's the
Yeah.
unfortunate truth. And I don't know what we do about that. That's my concern, right? What do we
Right.
do about that? How do we help those people? As far as the Islamic regime, I can care two shits about them. I do not care that their leadership's dead. I can care
Right.
less if we take them out. I think we should hunt them down like we did to the Nazis. There's
Yeah.
nowhere they should go that they should be able to say that they're Islamic regime sympathizers without being chastised or arrested. Okay, because they are actually to me no different than the Nazi party. Their goal
Yeah.
is to rule the world, period. And we've seen it through multiple tactics, through terrorism and through soft invasion,
Mhm.
alluding to the immigration issues we've seen of people from the Middle East that are Muslim. I'm not trying to make this an anti Muslim rant, by the
Right.
way,
Right.
but we have seen it. We've seen it in the UK, we've seen it in parts of the US. It is a reality. And if we want to
Yeah.
talk about the extreme Islamic or fundamentally extreme Islamic practices, everyone is simping for Iran and saying there's nothing wrong with the Islamic regime or their practices. And the only reason people are doing that is because their pocketbooks are getting hurt. So I'm going to circle back
Yeah.
to what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The oil. Okay. Well, this affects the UK more than anybody. Japan, Australia, etc. They rely more on the oil coming from the Gulf region. Now,
Mhm.
do they have to buy from Iran? No. They can buy from Saudi Arabia. They can buy from anywhere else. And in fact, those boats and ships are getting in to buy from those partners.
Right.
The thing that nobody is saying is you could have always gotten oil from the US, but why won't they? Because then they'll admit that they need the US. That's the problem. The UK
Mhm.
sure as hell doesn't want to admit that. But there's nothing stopping them from buying from Canada, who's a very big producer, or how about Mexico?
Right. Yeah.
There were solutions to the problem, is all I'm saying. Of course, it still would have added cost, but there were solutions. And then people are saying, well, it's not just about the oil, stupid. It's the fertilizer. US produces probably more fertilizer than anybody in the world. I'm sorry.
Right.
There were solutions to the issues that are hurting your pocketbook. It would have raised the cost, but not to the level we're seeing now because people are being stubborn. I don't
Mhm.
understand, Samantha. I don't understand this. How is it that the world, or Europe, for example, has been the largest voice in this, able to tolerate an evil regime all for the sake of their pocketbook, for convenience, right?
Yeah.
That makes no
Yeah.
sense to me. That's the only reason I can see that they were allowed to exist. And then if we want to talk about this, I'm gonna bring up another point here. A lot of people say, well, the only reason Iran's in the situation they're in is because the U.S. overthrew their duly elected, democratically elected leader. Bullshit. We're going to talk about
Yeah.
Operation Ajax. You familiar with that?
No.
Okay. So this is something Dave Smith brings up a lot. Operation
Okay.
Ajax was a CIA operation in which they went in during that time period in transition to overthrow the previous government, right?
Okay.
And this is how the Islamic regime came into power. It was a propaganda campaign, basically, by the
Okay.
CIA. Now, the thing that people always miss and don't talk about, why were we there? Because the UK asked us to. This was brought on by the UK.
Mhm.
What was really going on at the time was the UK had control of Iran's oil back then. Back then, if we all recall, the UK was a huge superpower and they actually colonized and they ran most of all the Middle East. They're the ones when we're talking about Israel, coming into
Yeah.
being, they're the ones who handed off to the USA because they no longer had money or control. And they said, you know what, we're going to split all this up and we're going to ask the US to come in and try to broker this and help us out with this. Because
Mhm.
UK as an empire was crumbling, wanted to back out. So Operation Ajax in Iran was a CIA operation, but the whole thing was brought on by the UK. The UK had control of Iranian oil. It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
What happened was the new government in Iran at the time, they said, "You know what? Our partnership isn't working. You're taking all the money, all the Iranian money. You're not giving
Mhm.
anything back to us. They're giving us less than 16%, for example. I think it was like 16% or less of the profits." And so they're like, "We're no longer going to do this with you, UK. We're going to nationalize our oil. The oil's coming back to Iran. We're going to make all the money." And the UK didn't like that. So the
Yeah.
UK asked the US to get involved to help overthrow this leadership, and by doing so, open the door through this propaganda campaign of Operation Ajax to install Khamenei. And what they did was open the door to this Islamic regime. Now, the Islamic regime at the time, the way they came across to the people was like, we're getting back to fundamental practices of Islam. We're going to go
Mhm.
ahead and build this country on the religion of love and peace, etc. And they made all these claims. But once they got in and they got into power, that didn't last long
Yeah.
because women went from wearing dresses and going out and working to wearing hijabs and being subjugated and raped. All right.
Right.
Sorry, but it is true.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that up because I know if people listen to this and listen to me talk, oh, well, the US did this. No, don't be an idiot. Read some history books, go
Yeah.
back, find out what really happened. Should the US take responsibility? Yes, we have some responsibility. Why? We agreed to do what we did, but
Mhm.
we didn't care. It was the UK who wanted us involved because the UK was losing their grip, their power, and their income from the Iranian oil. That's why
Yeah.
this happened. The Islamic regime turned into what they did, but nobody thought they would. And I'll say that the US has a problem with that, right? When we went to go help the Afghanistan, a lot of
Mhm.
people were like, "Oh, we funded the rebels and we funded terrorism because we trained Osama bin Laden and all that." That's only half true. The whole reason the U.S. ever really got involved in the Middle East at all was because we were fighting against communism and Russia. Period. A lot of this happened during the
Okay.
Cold War era. It goes
Mhm.
back to the 40s, and so the reason we got into Afghanistan was to fight the spread of communism. What happened was the Afghan rebels at the time didn't want this to happen. So we
Right.
went to help them and train them. The money that they say was given to terrorists, we didn't fund terrorists. You don't know what these rebels are going to turn into. We don't know their true intentions. And what happened at the
Right.
time is, almost full circle, right? Pakistan stepped in to
Uh-huh.
broker because they knew the relationships with the area and who's who, right? So the money we
Right.
were given to fund these people actually went to Pakistan. They're the ones who went ahead and then distributed it to who they thought should be given the money to fund their resistance. While lo and
Mhm.
behold, they did exactly what we didn't want. They funded some very jihadist type people who were using this as an opportunity to get trained, get money, and then once all the smoke cleared, then that's when Osama bin Laden stepped out. That's when you had Al Qaeda and all these other organizations start to break off and become what they were. So
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of nuance that people don't discuss. And this goes back to the beginning of our conversation. You got to stop living on the surface of information.
Yeah.
Is the US infallible? No. We have a history of doing
Right.
some things that aren't cool, but we're not the eye of the world. We're not the reason terrorism exists, and we're not the reason that the world is in turmoil. It's through
Yeah.
inactions and decisions made by many different people is how we got here. So,
Yeah.
in a long roundabout way, I think we need to get rid of the Islamic regime. Okay. Ever
Yeah.
since their existence for the last 47 years, 48 coming up. Ever
Yeah.
since then, the Middle East has not seen peace. It hasn't
Right.
been Israel. And now does Israel get hot-headed sometimes? Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes we need to like, hey guys, what the fuck you doing? But at the
Yeah.
same time, the existence of the Islamic regime, if we go back and look at the correlation of how things have developed, a lot of it has absolutely correlated with their existence in power. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot of other things we could talk about, but this is a fact. This is a fact. And people and I've said this and I'm sorry to be rude, but data facts don't give a fuck about your feelings. They just
Right.
don't. I'm not
Yeah.
directing that at you. I'm just,
No, I
broad
know.
statement. So
Yeah.
it is true though, and that's just unfortunate. And that statement goes for me too. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how I feel. Facts and data got to win out. We got to look at the reality of the situation.
Right.
So I hope that answered some questions.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple different things. So, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to tell you about my sponsors real quick. Sometimes I get on a roll cleaning or gardening, and I need a boost but don't have time for a meal. Big Fork Brand's pork jerky is the perfect choice to keep my momentum, offering high-protein snacks for on-the-go energy boosts. Not only do they offer pork jerky, but they also make pork sticks, bacon sausage, bacon hot dogs, and burger and hot dog sauces. Products come in a variety of delicious flavors, including Thai green curry and maple and brown sugar for the meat options, and gangster and Chicago fire for the sauces. I personally think the original flavor of the pork jerky hits just right after tackling a big chore. It's a little salty and very flavorful. My discount code gives you 20% off your entire order, and it's currently the best deal available. Just visit bigforkbrands.com and enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. Are you looking for a gift for a music lover, or maybe some apparel to show off your quirky side? Old Glory has you covered. With over 300,000 officially licensed items covering music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture, you're guaranteed to find the perfect item. They even have seasonal gear. My husband enjoys the Beatles and Led Zeppelin apparel, and I love the Billy Idol apparel. I even found items for my fellow plant enthusiasts. This family-owned superstore is known for their quality and customer service, offers free standard shipping on all orders, and orders are shipped the same day you purchase. My discount code gives you 15% off your entire order, and it's currently the best deal available. Just visit oldglory.com and enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. Looking for a game-changing way to improve your health? Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant, packed with over 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, and antioxidants. Harnessing the best nature has to offer, Zevo Life nourishes your body while driving your performance, vitality, and overall well-being. Each serving is a concentrated source of clean, well-balanced nutrition designed to support modern lifestyles, and just 1 teaspoon a day supports your gut, boosts energy, and promotes healthier skin and hair. It's no wonder that it's receiving rave 5-star reviews. Step into a healthier future with a 30% discount and a 30-day risk-free guarantee by visiting zivo.life and using my promo code. To support my show and to receive 30% off your entire order, enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. I guess when I have a hard time making my decision on how I feel about something, I do look at what's the fact of it. Was it legal? And then it's
Yeah.
like, well, I guess maybe I didn't like this, but they had the authority or, legal ability to do so. And so
Right.
I guess I can't bitch too
But
much about it. But
let's expand on that legality though. Like in terms of what, for example?
I'm talking more about like what people are doing with legislation or, back to the redistricting. Some of it
Yeah, if we're
is
going back to
legal, some of
that,
it's
I
not,
understand. Yeah,
but yeah.
I agree with you.
But the other thing is when I do talk to people about politics and they have a certain feeling about something, they might not like something. It's like, maybe this isn't good, but I almost suggest maybe just if you're not going to do your due diligence and look into it, then don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
I don't know. And I also don't want people voting based off of something that they misunderstand.
I agree. I agree with everything. I do the same thing. I mean, look, I have a podcast, obviously, right? There's
Mhm.
some things that I don't talk about because I am not versed in it. I didn't do enough
Yeah.
research, or I got to be honest, it might not interest me. So
Right.
it's like everybody expects us to talk about something that this just happened. I can't wait to hear what you said. Well, I don't really have anything to say on it. I'm either not interested or I don't know
Right.
enough.
Right.
Maybe I'll
Yeah.
tackle it next time. You know. So yeah, I think you're correct. And as far as our legislation is like the way it's set up is we don't have as much control as we think. Like our vote
Mhm.
matters, but then we've also seen where bills are introduced by Congress that we didn't introduce as citizens that
Right.
seem to get backed by people in Congress. And okay, good one here, right? Since we're coming back to the US, let's leave the
Uh-huh.
Middle East for a while. What about 2026? The federal mandate that's being passed going to be enacted for every car to have biometric readers, and it's going to be able to track your speed. It's going to be able to read your facial expressions and everything, and tell if you're inebriated or even in a good condition to drive.
Right.
So and Ford's going to be doing this. I think they're one of the first to do it. We didn't vote on this.
No.
Congress decided. So your new Ford truck that if you want to buy next year, forget it. You're going to get in it, and if you look like you're panicked or flustered and this thing reads you and says, "Oh, you're not in a good state to drive," it's not going to let you drive. If it deems you're going too fast, it might slow you down or pull you over. If it thinks you're tired because your eyes are looking away or whatever, it's going to stop your car. All these things are built in. The other thing it does, it will take this. Now, I don't know if this is confirmed, but I heard. I would just say I heard. So don't
Uh-huh.
quote me on this, but we can look into this later. I also heard that it'll do a scan and start to check who you are against police records. So,
Really?
yep. Again, I heard that. So we can call that a rumor
Yeah.
for now, but it is something concerning that I heard. So I do have to look into it. So maybe I shouldn't even say it, but I'm going to, whatever. But yeah, this is something that just happened. Nothing we voted on, right? I didn't
Right.
vote on it. Did you?
No, and
Did we get a chance to vote on
like,
it?
and why are we, I mean, if this seems to be more for government, for
Yeah.
more government
Control.
monitoring or whatever, and
hmm
that's not really what the
Crazy.
Republican Party, which is
And,
in charge, should be
and what about
really.
mileage tax?
Oh yeah.
And JB
Yeah.
Pritzker, I believe, was trying to push for that, or they did pass. I'm not sure if they did, but Illinois is already going to be doing that. California's talking about it. And it's like, okay, now we're going to tax you for your miles. They kind of already do that on
Yeah.
gas, but now they're going to tax you for your miles driven. So I mean, how is it going to work for people who commute to their jobs? Like where I live in California, it's not unheard of to drive in traffic for 2 to 3 hours to go to work and then
Right.
come back. These people are spending 7 to 10 hours a day on the road sometimes just working
Yeah.
to earn a
Yeah.
real wage, right? And so you add all this up, and they can start taxing you per mile. Hmm. And then they're like, well, for those who don't drive much, it actually saves them money. Yeah, but it's not necessarily fair. Right now, the gas tax, regardless of when you fill your car up, we know at least it's even across the board. But now you're gonna
Yeah.
tax people per mile. So I know Illinois is pushing to or did pass it.
Mhm.
Again, gotta look into that one. But I heard that is definitely something that they're wanting to do. JB Pritchard wants to do that. I know in California they're pushing for it as well, and I don't know
Yeah.
where else this is going to spread to. But we have things like that you and I didn't vote on. We also
Yeah.
have, I don't know. I'll just bring this up. It's just something I do. I smoke cigars, so we also have this thing of a generational tobacco or cigar ban that's being pushed.
Okay.
It's happened in the UK. They actually passed it. Anybody born after 2008, you can't buy a cigar now. Okay. Why do I care about this? It's not just about the cigar because not everybody smokes them, but this is a message to everybody that we're going to decide what is good for you and what isn't, and we're going to tell you what you can enjoy, can't enjoy. Now, what does this do? There are long-standing institutions in Britain, in the UK, that have these very old, hundreds years old cigar institutions of like cigar lounges, etc., or importers that are going to be wiped out because eventually they're not going to outlast this ban, right?
Yeah.
As people like me start dying off, you're no longer going to be allowed to be able to buy a cigar or smoke any kinds of tobacco. Now,
Right.
cigarettes, in my opinion, I don't know if you smoke it. I can see why they would feel the way they do about that, but a cigar, come on, there's nothing in it. It's literally just tobacco. So
Right.
California's trying to do this. I think they did pass it. I have to look at that. But it was something that was coming up for discussion for sure. And there were other
Mhm.
states that they're trying to do the same thing that the UK was doing in the United States of America. Again, You were talking about legislation. None of us as citizens got a chance to vote on that because
Right.
Congress decided, governments of states decided that they have the power to push these bills and ideas that we don't get a chance to decide on.
Yeah.
And if they get enough backing from within when they make the presentations, gets kicked up the food chain and either the governor or the president signs off on it.
Right.
No,
I mean,
crazy.
what issues are they trying to address with that? If their constituents don't want it, then who are they really representing when they pass laws like this?
Oh my God, that's a conspiracy question right there,
I know.
right? Yeah, it's a good question though. Like to what end? Because
Mhm.
what they pass that restricts our ability to be free. It's like slowly chipping away at our freedoms, right?
Yeah.
Does it not apply to them as well?
Right.
Like,
Right.
like, do they not see it's like they're shooting themselves in the foot by doing these things, or do they get
Well,
special privileges? Right? We'll never know. Right?
right. And then if you're gonna do a mileage tax, how about on flights? They're flying all over the
Oh,
place. Like,
that's okay. Good point. Right? Okay, fair enough. Good point. But good luck taxing a corporation.
right.
You
Yeah.
can, you get a lot of write-offs. You can do whatever you want. Look, fuel costs, etc., whatever payments, interest payments on loans.
Mhm.
You can write all that off. I mean, so it's really more of a direct hit and control against a person, individual, rather than a
Right.
business.
Yeah.
So, but that's a very good point, though. I mean, you're spot on. It's like, well, why not that? Why is it just cars? And then how is
Yeah.
it going to affect the trucking industry? Is there going to be a different way to
Right.
tax them versus? I mean, you got people driving thousands of miles. I mean, thousands of miles a week. What's going to happen to them? I mean, they're already
Yeah.
paying almost $8 average on diesel.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Might not be the average, but I have a person in my industry, and so he's one of my partners, but his brother's he's a truck driver, he has a license, and so he trucks our
Okay.
gear around, and
Yeah.
he told us, like, he got the opportunity to take this, truck gear around for a tour, for a concert, and he gave the quote, and he's like, "Man, I had to calculate $8 a gallon on diesel because it's, like, so up and
Right.
down across the states," and it was like $7,000 or $8,000 just in gas to do this run.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, well, that's not even accounting for the mileages that he's
Yeah.
driving. So how is this gonna work? Are they gonna take away gas tax and just do mileage tax?
Right.
I guarantee in California they won't. Our
No.
our state.
No.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you basically get taxed for being alive. Every move you make at
You
this
get
point.
taxed for breathing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're cattle, we're just assets. That's all we are, right? For the powers that be. So,
Yeah.
all right, everyone, tinfoil hat time. So, right?
Yeah.
The
It
Illuminati, they're in
it
control.
is it is getting wild. Sometimes I think like, okay, we're all just the peasants of the politicians are
I
living in their
mean,
kingdom and we're all just the peasants to them.
doesn't it feel that way?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like crazy, if they spit on us, we're like, "Oh, thank you, master. Thanks for the
yeah.
water." It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, is that all we are? No,
Yeah.
I hear you, man. It's a crazy world we live in, and we always can say we look at the bigger picture, but I think if we want to fix anything, it starts in our backyard, right?
Mhm.
If we're not getting involved in school districts, right? If we're not going to those meetings and we're not talking to the superintendents or the board members, I mean, we've seen people arrested for having an opinion that made sense,
Right.
but at the same time, it
Right.
starts there. It starts in your local government. I mean, a lot of people look at government wrong. They think it's top down. Actually comes up and funnels from the bottom. So
Mhm.
if you're not controlling your own backyard, your own region, if you're not getting what you want in your city or
Yeah.
town, then how are you going to affect the district when it comes to the state? And then how are you going to affect the country, right?
Right.
It's just like you got to start in your own backyard, own your own backyard. It's the same principle in business when you're starting to grow. You got to own your own backyard before you can get outside of that and expand. And
Right.
so whatever yard that is, wherever you decide your home's going to be, you got to fucking control that. And if we're not able to do that or not willing to because it's too inconvenient to our busy little lives and it gets in the way of us buying our Starbucks and fucking watching the Netflix special or whatever, then stop complaining. You're letting
Yeah.
it happen. You're letting it
Yep.
happen, you know?
Yeah.
And then we got Mom Donnie. I don't know.
I the I mean, this is a little bit different, but the one thing I want to stress when we get closer to the midterms is, eh, you know, how it was in 2020 and in Biden's entire administration,
Yeah.
that will all come back full force, and it'll be worse than it was before.
Yeah.
It's
You're right.
I mean, people have gotta be more involved even now, like, hold all the politicians accountable, be more
I agree.
involved,
Well,
and
here's the thing, because I know that you do go over the Epstein thing, right?
Mhm.
You've been tracking that.
Yeah,
And I wanna say that I think accountability extends to everyone regardless of your political preference or party
yeah,
preference. I do
yeah,
not care if it's a Republican, a Democrat. I don't even care if it's Trump. I can give a damn less.
right.
If these things happen, these people need to be held accountable. They need to be arrested, period, or
Yeah,
hung. I mean, honestly,
yeah.
you know? And
My friend
so,
and I talk about stoning him to death.
I
It's
mean, Old Testament, let's go, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I think you're right. I mening accountability. We need accountability. Like,
Mhm.
why are politicians getting away with things? Why is Bill Gates still walking around?
That's that's what's the most upsetting with going through the Epstein files is, like, you can tell that something wrong happened there,
Yeah,
but then they're
absolutely.
like, "Oh, well, we don't have proof. Oh, we don't have proof." And then it's like, "Well, you're not calling in." I mean, yes, Bill Gates is gonna provide testimony, as are some others, but there are others that need to be called in and questioned about their actions that they're
Agreed.
not. And, Steve Tisch, I think that's how you say his name, that's one that Epstein set him up with dates, and he had to ask Epstein if they were working girls or civilians. Does that not
Huh.
imply he knew
Right.
that he was
Right.
trafficking or
Yeah.
involved in some sort of illegal activity? But the House Oversight Committee hasn't called him for testimony. And it just blows my mind. And I'm not even very far down the list of names
Isn't that
for
crazy?
that. It is. And I don't wanna bash the victims at all, but they've also declined to go on record and name names, and it's hard to charge people when you don't have names,
I've said the
you know?
same thing, and people kind of like push back or attack me for it because they're like, well, you got to understand the victims, what they're going through, and we got to protect them. It's like, well, we do, but then you see some doing commercials saying, I was a victim and this and that. Well, if you're going to put yourself out there and tell the world you're a victim, then point at the person who did what they
Yeah,
did wrong to you.
yeah.
You
'Cause
know?
I mean, you can't just keep screaming for the files to be released and for prosecutions to happen if we don't have the names, and
Yeah, but they do. So my take, and I'll be on. I think you know way more on this than I do. Like I haven't taken the time to go through the whole, like even go through the list. I tried. I just don't have the time. So this is going to be interesting for me. I'm going to learn from you. That's for sure. But what I find interesting is, we had Danny Bongianino. I call him Bongianino
yeah.
because I just don't care about that dude anymore.
I was
Um,
actually wondering if you liked him, but
oh,
and
screw that
I'm not a
dude.
fan anymore. So,
No,
yeah.
no. I mean, he went to attack his listeners and you're all black pillars and all that.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, you can only cry about how tough you are and everything that you can do for so long, dude. Look, you're
Mhm.
just a talking head. You're just hot air on a mic. Shut the fuck up. You
Yeah.
don't have any inside info anymore. Like he did when he was in the
Yeah.
FBI. Let's not say he didn't, but he doesn't now. And before that, he didn't then. So
Right.
the thing with some so the reason I brought him up is because he was the one, remember, before he got the position as deputy director.
Mhm.
I'm going to blow the doors right off. I'm going to hold everyone
Right.
accountable. We're going to go ahead and arrest all these guys. Why is it taking so long? And then he comes out, Epstein killed himself. There's nothing there. What the
There's
fuck
no
are you
way.
talking about?
I know.
Danny, listen, buddy. We had nearly over 20 years of investigatory
Yeah.
actions against Epstein. That is money, that is resources, that is agents, that is like thousands and thousands of pages, as you know, because you're actually reading them
Yeah.
all. It's like you're telling me there's nothing there, but yet the government found it interesting enough to spend all this money and resources to do an over 2 decades investigation, 2 decades long
Right.
investigation. Like, what the
Right.
fuck are we supposed to believe?
Yeah.
If
The
I'm cussing too much, I'm sorry.
No, no, you're fine. No, yeah.
You said okay, so
Yeah, yep, nope, you're good. Yeah, I have, when my friend gets on here for the true crime stuff, it's pretty wild sometimes.
okay.
But,
I'm trying to choose the words for emphasis more than anything, so I hope.
yeah, yeah,
But seriously though, like what's up? What's up?
it's so what blows my mind is so Epstein's brother doesn't think he killed himself. There's been other medical examiners, um, say there's no way, and I'm not a medical professional. I was a CNA. I did clean up dead bodies. I have seen dead bodies, and I understand how the skin models,
Mhm.
what dead bodies look like after they've been dead for a while. And, so I will say that there is stuff there where people think that's not Epstein. He's not dead in that photo. He's too relaxed.
Really?
And the ligature mark, it should not be straight across. When you've hung yourself, it should be at an angle. And
Right.
there's no way a bed sheet made that mark so,
Is it
precise as
because
well.
it's too much fabric, like too wide?
Mhm. It looks more like a shoelace or something like that, and with it being straight across, and then there's a contusion on the back of his neck.
I heard about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it kinda looks like somebody just strangled
Maybe hit
him.
him from
And
behind and then hung him or strung him up?
I think I don't know if it was manual, but it definitely was from behind, and then that was putting pressure on. Again, I'm not a medical professional,
Who was the doctor
but
that revealed, like, he said similar to what you're saying, like, I forgot his name. He was trying to say that he didn't hang himself and that nothing lined up or looked like what would happen from somebody actually hanging themselves, like the way the injury on the neck was and whatnot. I forgot his name. I don't know if you might recall it.
I cannot think of his name, and because when I was reading who, Mark Epstein, the
Mhm.
brother, hired, it sounded familiar, um, but there are a lot of medical professionals out there with decades of experience that do not think that he killed himself.
I don't think he did. There's no way.
There's
There's too
um,
there's there's too much that is circumstantial. There's too much that's weird, like the cameras going out, things like that.
yeah,
Like, none of it made any sense whatsoever. It really did
yeah,
not make sense.
right,
Ah,
and then
I mean,
the fake body to cart him out so the press wouldn't see, but then the press was at the hospital anyways, and
you think he's in the
I don't know.
Bahamas right now?
I don't know.
Did you
You
see
know
that picture circulating about him being out, like, I think in the Caribbean or somewhere, and he's like had this big old beard and
Yes, and apparently he's in Israel as well,
oh,
and,
okay.
Palm Beach Pete, I think that's his name. Have you heard of Palm Beach Pete?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
It's some guy that looks just like Epstein driving around, and
Really?
now he's getting on social media saying, "Hey, Palm Beach Pete
That's
here.
funny.
I'm not Jeffrey Epstein," but then people are noticing he has, like, the same stutter as Jeffrey Epstein or some speech impediment thing,
Pulling a
and
Shaggy, wasn't me, right? Wasn't me.
yeah, 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 it's interesting. I mean, I did think he was dead, and then recently after hearing about them pretending that this pile of clothes or whatever was him, and that the body that
Mm.
was pictured looked like someone connected to Hillary Clinton, it's like, gosh,
What's
all the crazy stuff keeps being proven true, and I don't
yeah,
wanna put the tinfoil hat on, but it's like
why not
something's
at this point? I mean,
yeah,
like, so I was gonna ask you since you brought that up, what do you think is going on there with the involvement with the Clintons, for example? Because their names came up a lot, and then she was
yeah.
really pissed off when she was under the questioning, you know?
Yes, so Hillary and Bill contradicted each other quite a lot
Huh.
in their testimony, um, and going through the files, there are fake images of Hillary with Epstein that are flying around, but there are not real confirmed images of Hillary with Epstein, and I just wonder if it's one of those, makes me think of Harry Potter where, what was it? Dumbledore didn't want Harry looking at him. I don't know if you're into that because
I
Voldemort
I
could,
I've
like,
I've
see
seen them
through
all. Yeah.
okay, so you know how Dumbledore was, like, avoiding, too much eye contact with Harry because he didn't want, Voldemort to see the
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
connection,
yeah. Yeah.
right? So then it's
Yes.
it's almost like, okay, so was Hillary involved? but she
Hmm.
made sure to not be pictured with him ever. Because how can Ghislaine Maxwell attend her daughter's wedding and, oh, she was just a plus one?
Right.
Okay, well, she's pictured pretty prominently in a photo, and
Yeah.
then how can her husband spend so much time with him, yet they've never met? Epstein met everybody.
He made it a point to be known as the
Exactly.
guy, right?
Yes, he fed off of that, he lived off of it. I just don't believe that she never met him and th didn't have
Yeah.
some
I,
suspicion, and it was before his 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor. But,
how do we trust Hillary at all in what she says when she had servers at her house a long time ago. Remember that? In her fucking basement, servers with sensitive
yes,
US information. The whole
yes,
Benghazi issue where she literally didn't raise a finger to help the people and many people died, when
yeah,
when the embassy was being overrun. I mean, she has been implicated in so many things where she
mhm,
fumbled the ball and never was held accountable and went to prison. She even
right,
said, "No, I'm not coming for questioning. I don't have to." Well, how does that work? Because if someone called me in for questioning in a court order, I'd have to go in or I'm arrested, right?
yeah,
Like none of this makes any sense to me. And then I think I could be wrong. So tinfoil hat time. That
uh,
like, do you think the Diddy thing and Epstein's kind of related somewhere? Because they seem like very similar things to a degree.
I do wonder that a bit because there was Epstein did a lot of stuff with women that were of age too, with the
Yeah.
modeling agency thing, and there just does seem to be some overlap there. I haven't found a connection yet, but that doesn't mean that
Still
there
makes you
isn't one.
wonder. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because the other thing that's crazy is with Diddy, they were on his ass quick. Like, look how fast they found all the
I
evidence, did the
know.
arrest, etc. But with
Yeah,
Epstein, we have over 20 something years and they still say, oh, yeah,
yeah,
shit.
yeah. And that was it Alexander Acosta? I'm trying to think of the whoever was supposed to be prosecuting him back in 2008 in Florida, and they said that there's like 10 to 20 men involved in this ring, and they had all this proof, but then they're like, "Well, we're afraid we're not going to get the conviction we need," so they gave him the sweetheart deal, and it's like,
Right.
okay, and then these 10 to 20 men, like, no one we have nothing, like, we have nothing because you didn't go after it.
You know what's crazy is so the thing with Epstein, okay, a lot of people speculate he was like a Mossad agent and all this stuff. I don't know
Mhm.
if that's the real tie-in. But what's sad is a lot of people are looking at the Epstein case and issue as just a US issue. And this was a worldwide thing.
Right.
He had leaders in I think it was Qatar or Saudi Arabia that were
Uh-huh.
implicated. Prince Andrew
Yeah.
stripped of his titles.
Yeah.
There's so much going on around the world where it comes to connections with Epstein, but yet people are thinking it's just a US operation or it was just a US thing. Like his tentacles were many and they
Yeah.
they reached across the entire world. And so in some way or somehow, he was able to infiltrate people's like relationships and who's around them and
Mhm.
get to know them and somehow have a bit of control over them
Yeah.
in some way. And we can say that's attributed to the underage girls, which very, very well may be. But he
Mhm.
also did other things in moving money illegally,
Yes.
right? There
Mhm.
was also stories of him getting involved in arms deals or facilitating them, right? In an indirect
Yeah.
way. So everything he did goes well beyond to just what happened with the prostitution.
Yeah.
He was involved in a lot of other things. So it's like, was there someone behind him is the question. And if that is the case, which could be, that's the person suppressing everything. And so who is that
Mhm.
individual?
Right. Right, and it almost seems like there has to be someone else behind him.
Either a person or organization, right?
Right. Right. And it is interesting to see other countries, going after, like, Peter Mandelson, some of these other politicians in
Right.
other countries. They are actually getting investigated and stuff like that, but we just can't seem to find anything on anyone connected to him in the United States. I
Crazy.
think administrations I think every administration probably deleted stuff from those files.
Yeah, do you think what, Cash said about, files from before and what evidence being destroyed or burned, do you think that was true?
Yeah, I do, and I don't wanna stand up too much for Pam Bondi because I think she's been terrible since February 2025 with the, binder bullshit.
That was dumb.
It was, and so then I've had a hard time really trusting anything she says, but I do know that the files from the Southern District of New York, they had asked for them, they were refusing to hand them over, and that was part of why there was a delay with releasing all of the files, because they had to fight them legally to hand them over.
Right.
Um, so I do believe that there was tampering, because why wouldn't they just hand them over?
Yeah, wasn't the excuse that they were trying to make sure that victims' names were redacted?
Yeah, yes, and you know my big problem with all of this is everyone wanted the Epstein files released. Everyone,
Mhm.
and everyone was demanding it. Yet no one was giving a timeline, we want this by this amount. If
True.
they would have just taken their time, released a little bit at a time. This is what we've gone through. We've taken our time to make sure that the victims' names and faces have been redacted. Here's the year 2008. Have at it, and then everyone would have been happy with that if we would have just seen something instead of, oh, now we've got to do the Epstein Files Transparency Act, release 3.5 million files, redaction errors, people redacted who shouldn't have been redacted. It just became such a mess. It
It's
was
almost like that
completely
was
bungled.
a tactic used to distract, right?
Mhm.
Because think about 3.5 million, like, who's gonna go through all that? That takes teams, like,
Yeah,
years, and,
yeah,
the the reality is I like what you said, like, if they would've just released a little here and there over time, like, here you go, but at the
mhm,
same time, with all the evidence and years of investigative work, where the hell are the arrests? Are you telling me all you have is Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, that's it? Like, there's
right,
nothing else, there's no
and
other conduits, go-betweens? What about clients who and the
yeah,
clients, how can you not arrest a client if they are engaging in underage sexual acts, like,
yeah,
with underage girls or even boys? But how
yeah.
are you not arresting them for doing these things, you know?
That also, how is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison for trafficking if no trafficking took place? I mean,
Yeah, well, good point. Like, if it didn't happen, then why is she there?
mhm, yeah.
There's no
Now,
evidence, why is she there?
I don't know why she's not naming names, or
I
whatever.
think it might go back to, there might be another person, another
Mhm,
organization pulling the strings. I mean, she's probably just trying to save her own ass.
probably, yeah.
Or
Yeah,
or she's stringing the government along for as long
yeah,
as she can to keep her preferential accommodations, you know?
right, right.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I think that regardless, people should have been arrested already. And
mhm,
I personally, not vindictively, but I wanna see politicians burn. I wanna see them go
yeah.
down. They never, ever are held accountable. I can't remember the last time an actual real politician went and served any prison time.
Yeah, no,
Oh, so on that vein, sorry, sorry.
yeah, no, that's okay.
Um, uh, um, Comey just
Uh-huh,
was, there's an arrest
indicted.
warrant issued, right? Did he get
Yeah,
arrested yet? Or is
I
it
don't
just
think
an issue,
so.
or what's going on with that?
To me, it sounds like they actually don't have that much to charge him off of,
Were
but
they just trying to,
we'll see.
base it off that threat, that seashell threat that he remember that on social media
Yeah.
posted? Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there are things that he could be charged for, but I think that if they're just going off of the seashell post, that's not enough. But I
Mm,
guess yeah. There have been I mean, is it gonna go anywhere though? Because we are seeing a lot of people finally get indicted. We're
right.
seeing people resign from Congress for sexual impropriety. Is it gonna go anywhere?
Good
I
question.
don't know.
It
I
probably
don't
won't just because of who he is, but at the
Mhm.
same time, like, I can I can agree that, okay, that whole seashell posting might be thin,
Yeah.
but it is also a direct threat
Yeah.
to the life of a president.
Yeah.
So this could lead to other things that we're not seeing. This could lead to further regulation of social media.
Mhm.
This can lead to what's going on in the UK. You can be arrested for what you say or think in terms of your posts.
Yeah.
This could be just a way to open a door to that. Like I said, that's why sometimes when you look at this, it's like, is it really two sides of the same coin?
Right.
And
Right.
and so that was the one thing that popped to my or the few things that popped to my mind. Is it really
Mhm.
about going after Comey for what he said, or is this opening the door to further regulations of free speech?
Right, which is not that's not where we wanna go.
Right, and
I
that's a
mean,
theory. It's not a fact or
yeah,
truth yet, but we did see
I've
this
been
play out in the
wondering.
UK.
Yeah, and I've been wondering that as well. And I will say that I do think that there should be repercussions for people who incite violence, and
Right?
his post did incite violence,
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
sure, say what you wanna say, but if you're inspiring someone else to go out and try to assassinate somebody, I think you
Well,
should be held accountable.
I agree, and literally calling for the assassination of a sitting president, like, seriously.
Yeah, yeah. And alright, what
Alright, how many posts did we see about, "Let's assassinate Obama," or, "Let's assassinate
Yep.
Biden"? Did we see that?
That's exactly what I was gonna say, and
Oh, okay.
then, of course, yeah, no, of course, if there were posts like that, it would be like, "Oh, there's the violent right again," but,
Yeah.
"Oh, look, we just found out that the SPLC was funding the KKK and neo-Nazis to make the right." This it is
Surprise.
the world is so crazy right now, like,
A
just
total admission of everything they denied their entire existence, right?
Mhm.
Left doesn't
Yeah,
incite violence. We are inclusive and we love everybody, and yet you're funding an organization which
yeah,
literally is vehemently racist. And fun fact, I'm sure you know, KKK was founded by the Democrat Party.
right. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
did they ever cut ties? Apparently not.
Right, I know. And I wonder how many of those people that they paid were actual members too. So I
Members
live
of
near
what?
the
Members of what?
KKK, neo-Nazis, or if they were
Oh, you're talking about all the other
pretending.
people? Yeah,
Yeah, the people that were marching and stuff.
right.
Um, so I used to live in a town in Iowa that had the largest KKK chapter in the United States. And they have their own magazines, and so,
Okay.
like, when I first moved to town, like, they tossed a magazine into my yard, and I don't know if it was, like, a welcoming thing, like, "Hey, if
Probably.
you're interested."
Well, heads up.
Yeah, and yeah, and so they have their own magazines, they have their own business cards, so you could go to a bar and play pool with somebody, and they'll say, "Hey, good game," hand you a business card, and
That's
it's
crazy.
literally a KKK business card. They're not going out marching in matching clothes and stuff like that. Maybe some chapters are, I guess, I don't know. That's my personal experience, unfortunately, I've been around it, and then the Aryan Brotherhood,
Mhm.
um, with blonde hair and blue eyes, of course, I'm approached by that group have been approached by that group. You won't be able to tell that they're part. I mean, not in
Well,
rural Iowa, I guess,
I would
but
think the Brotherhood you would with all the tattoo I mean, they were founded as a prison gig, right? I think out of
yeah,
Texas or whatnot. Um,
yeah,
so them you might be able to tell depending on if they're displaying everything, but I
right,
think I
yeah,
think the lesson here and what you're saying is they're active, but they're in the background. They're doing it in other ways. They've never gone
yes,
away, right?
right,
And
right,
so they themselves, you might be on something. Like they're the ones who are taking the money and funding these other people who look like normies or normal people
mhm,
to do things for them. And they're just being useful idiots, right?
yeah,
Like we're seeing the protests for Palestine or the protests for the 7,000 genders or whatever the case is. And
yeah,
could this not just be a tool to keep people divided? And honestly, if you're looking at what's going on, is it not just a page out of the Marxist playbook? How about
right,
a page straight out of, and here's the Nazi KKK tie-in,
mhm,
Joseph Goebbels' playbook, right? The 1930s Nazi propaganda ministry. It's exactly what they do. That's exactly
Yeah.
what they did. And there's also now we look at here's the other tie-in. So if this was it SCP, right? Um,
SPLC.
SPLC, sorry.
Mhm.
So they're funding the KKK.
Yeah.
Okay. They're going out and funding these protesters that may not be tied to the KKK.
Right.
But yet they're doing exactly what Joseph Goebbels has said. If you tell a lie consistently enough and long enough, and you consistently, continuously tell that lie, it becomes a truth. So what we're witnessing here is both social engineering, in that they're trying to engineer society to accept certain things so that they stand against others, and
Mhm.
they're also like it's also behavioral conditioning through controlled narratives and curated words, right? So the word
Yeah.
Nazi almost means nothing anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So if you're saying a very carefully placed word within a very curated, carefully delivered message that is very consistent and never changes for I mean, it's ever since Trump came down the escalator,
Mhm.
then what are you doing? You're conditioning people to believe a certain thing. So far, what we have seen is the government no, that's not what we're saying. What we're seeing is we have to accept socialism because it's fair to everybody and free. The rich are taking advantage of everybody. Those are
Yeah.
what most of the protests have been around about. No kings, etc. What is it really all about? Anarchy, toppling the powers that be or the perceived
Mhm.
powers that be. So it's all of this is leading towards tearing down the government from within. And unfortunately, people are eating it up because the message has been consistent and has been non-ending, and the younger people who are being educated, especially in higher educational institutions,
Mhm.
they're being indoctrinated. Again, this
Yeah.
is all playbooks from the communist Marxist playbook. Karl Marx himself has advocated and wrote about doing this, and Joseph Goebbels has done this during the 1930s and 40s, during the Nazi reign.
Mhm.
Th- this is not new. And so what we're not seeing is we're not recognizing what's happening,
Yeah.
because they're playing on people's ires. They're playing on people's woe is me, I don't have enough money, I can't buy a house, and they're just
Right.
looking at that, redirecting all of their pain and suffering and how they feel, and they're finding a common enemy. The common
Right.
enemy right now is Trump, or it's just the US government, or it's democracy, or it's capitalism. But
Yeah.
that's what they're doing. And so
Yeah.
all of this makes a lot of sense if you're looking at it from a macro view and you're able to go, wait a minute. This all looks
Yeah.
like it's kind of intertwined now, right?
Right. I think there are people that think that this is gonna go away when
Mm-mm.
Trump is no longer in office. They're just gonna find a different target.
It's not going to
It's
go
just gonna
away.
be
And I think the thing is we're going to see what happened previous Trump, to where
Mhm.
nobody's even going to know what's happening because to them it's just the normal thing,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah.
idea to install biometrics in our car. It's a great idea to be taxed on mileage. Like I'm just using
Yeah.
those like I'm
Yeah.
just calling back to that because it's like these little things we give away because the way that they present it, it's like, oh yeah, I guess I can go without that. It's only like a couple bucks here and there.
Right.
But what you're really doing is you're slowly letting them take away your freedoms. And once you do that, they don't ever, ever, ever give it back. I mean, I don't know if you yourself can recall any time something that was taken away, a right, a privilege, etc., that the government went and said, you know what, we did this about 20, 30 years ago. We kind of fucked up. We're giving it back to you.
Right. Yeah. No, it's never coming
No,
back.
never happens. Right. It's like,
Right.
nope, this is your new world now. Deal with it.
Yeah.
So what do we do? What's the answer?
Gotta get out and vote.
Yeah.
Or
Own your own backyard. We got to start there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess we got to put America first and stop, worrying about a evil Islamic regime that is hell bent on taking over the world and toppling the Western nations and destroying America. Maybe, I don't know.
And stop fighting about stupid shit. That
Yeah,
would
no shit.
that
Yeah,
would
I'm
help
with you
too.
there. So anyway, I think we, at least as independents, maybe we should support each other more. Maybe get our voices out there more to fight
Mhm.
the controlled narratives
Yeah.
that are dividing us. And let's just be real and have real conversations. Let's just be honest. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing the debate bro shit.
Mhm.
Let's have a real conversation. Okay, you heard me out today. You probably don't
Yep.
agree with like, I don't know, 60% of what I said, but regardless, you heard it. Maybe you'll walk away with something. Maybe I made a point. And at the same time, you've said some things where I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that. That's the point of this to me.
Yeah.
It's not
Yep.
to, I'm not here to change a world. I'm here to just give you my opinion, deliver the information as I know it to be true.
Mhm.
And, maybe you'll think differently about something. Not gonna change you fundamentally, but maybe now you can see a different angle on something that you didn't see before, and in turn, same for me. That's what I
Right.
like getting out of this. This whole thing that we see with these other podcasters that we talked about earlier, that all they do is debate, 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 and it's like they're not even dealing with the substance of what's happening or
Right.
even really getting down to the bottom of the issues. That is a dangerous
Yeah.
thing. I don't see that as being any different than what you just talked about right now with the funding of the KKK and the messaging and the protests and all of that. It's the
Mhm.
same shit. It's just a different approach, right?
Right. Yeah.
One method is for one audience, the other is for another. It's doing the same thing. It's dividing and conquering. That's all it's doing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that
Yeah.
seems to be everybody's goal right now, is just to
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
hopefully we can continue to have these talks, right?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
I I would
All
say
good.
that would be the thing. Let's support others who are really going out of the way to get, the truth out there. Because again, truth's
Yeah.
not popular, but I think if we can all get behind it and stick to our guns here, so to speak,
Yeah.
I think we'll start making that change. I think we're
Yeah.
gonna bring people back to reality.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, it's been fun doing a podcast and being able to hear other people's perspectives and
Absolutely.
learn and yeah.
Well,
So,
that's what this does. Allows us to focus and conversate. So I
mhm.
think it's great. I'm gonna say I thank you for having me on
Yes.
here.
Yes,
Definitely.
thank you for being on.